Welcome to the Grief Pod with Venetia Quick. This is a weekly podcast which looks at every aspect of something which has or will at some point affect us all. And that is grief. Whether you've lost a loved one or about to lose someone you know, or perhaps you're simply trying to help someone navigate their grief and don't know where to start or what to say, then perhaps this is the podcast for you. Each week I'll be bringing you different stories and experiences of loss, love, hope and at times humour. Just before Christmas on December the 8th, one of Ireland's legends, he certainly was a legend in the show business world, Dickie Rock, passed away. Now he had 6 kids and one of them, Jason, joins me on this week's episode of the podcast. Jason, first of all, thank you for coming in. But we want to talk to you first about your dad, because he was one of Ireland's, if not Ireland's first ever music legends, and with his Eurovision entry and pop stars and sort of everything was sort of the equivalent to what was happening in England with the Beatles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your dad was doing here.
Absolutely, yeah. It was pretty... I think, I don't know how you could imagine it. All you can do, me and you or everybody else can just look at the pictures to get kind of a flavour of what was going on, you know. So I can imagine on a young person's head how mind-blowing that was, especially in black and white 60s. So it was probably... you know, as close to having a trip as you could possibly get at that time.
Because of, you know, you go back, there's so no social media, there's nothing. No possibly TVs, and a lot of people, like, there's, you know, this huge thing where you get off a plane and suddenly there's loads of people there. You know, people still wrote to each other and communicated like that. I think people maybe communicated better because you had to. You know, you had to make the effort.
Yeah, you had to make the effort to talk to somebody. There was no texting and gaslighting people and hiding away. No, I can't go out. The kids have me tonight. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I can imagine. Well, I can't imagine, but all I can do is I used to kind of look in voyeuristically nearly at his life, because even though he was my dad and he was there, he wasn't there because he was off being Dickie Rock. Yeah. You know.
So what was that like growing up?
Totally surreal, really. You know, it's you don't have a normal life. And I think for me, I speak for me, not for the rest of my siblings. I'm the second eldest. My brother Joseph was 16 months older than me. He passed away 30 years ago. And he had learning difficulties, so he didn't really see it. He was just, you know, me and him. But the whole thing is surreal, and you have to really understand that, and it's kind of hard for kids to understand that until you hit a certain point in your life and you kind of go, oh wow, so this is all just a veneer. Okay. Dickie Rock's a veneer, Elvis Presley's a veneer, Sinatra's a veneer. It's who they are when they come home and go through the front door. Yeah. Do they become Richard Rock, or do they become, you know, just Albert Francis Sinatra, or do they become just a normal person? I don't know. Does the bin man change from being Tommy the bin man out on the road to coming home being Tommy the father? I don't know. All I know for me and my experience is there was Dickie Rock and then there was Richard Rock at home. You know, it was 2 totally different things.
And how were they different?
Well, Dickie Rock would have been the singer-performer, king of all he surveyed, and it was that simple.
Because he was quite shy, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. He'd no interest in socialising after concerts or after any type of gig. He was just in the car, home, probably grab a curry that he just loved doing. You know, he loved going for the late night curry to the Gigs place there on Charlemont Street, or the Bombay, which used to be there through the 70s, and having a laugh and a chat with the lads in the band, you know, and just being normal, messing, terrible messer, like an awful messer. Now, I wouldn't have seen the a messer side of him. But I know from the way his friends talk about him and the crack they had through the years that there was another different side to him that I didn't get to see, or probably the kids didn't get to see, because this is him being Jack the Lad, having the crack with his friends, you know, slagging.
So it's different people.
Totally different people. And I think individuals who are in the spotlight individually, you know, not with a group or with anybody else, when you are the be all and end all, you can kind of bring that with you through life. And it's not the most well-adjusted position to find yourself in sometimes, you know, because you can't be Dickie Rock when you go home. You have to be dad that helps you out when you fall on the ground, or you
does
know,
your homework.
Yeah, with your homework, but definitely never with your homework.
But that for you must have been difficult going up, trying to understand, because you often watch sort of celebrities nowadays, and of course every move is filmed, and a lot of them trot their kids out at the same time. And you sometimes look at the kids going, what must it be like for them to walk out of a hotel in Paris?
I'd say it's the greatest
to a
pain
million
in the
cameras.
Ass. I'd say it's the greatest pain in the ass for those kids, you know. I just speak from my experience that you had to quickly get it into your head, well, this pays for your Christmas lunch and this pays for your life, you know. So when you're 11, 12, 13, you suddenly all of a sudden become indebted to people, and kind of like you have to appreciate them turning up to the concerts. You have to appreciate all that, which is kind of hard for a child to have to be a certain way, that you can't step out and put your foot out to the left or right because somebody's going to say, hey, did you see what that fellow did? Or did you see what that young rock did? Which one was it? I don't know, it's one of them. You know, so there was always a spotlight on you. And it was I always felt that somebody's watching. You can't do A, B, or C. You just can't. You can't be a normal person. Which some of my siblings decided to shirk that and kind of go, well, I'm going to be normal and feck yous all, like, and go mental. You know, and I think when you're that repressed as a kid, you eventually just pop and go, I want to do this, or I want to do that, or I want to try this, or I want to take that, or I want to just go lula. Give me my mohawk, like, type of thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's not easy, and I would sympathise with lots of those kids as well. You know, because no matter what, oh, they're rich or they're wealthy or they're this or they're that. Yeah, that doesn't matter when you have emotions that need to be calmed down. You know, £1,000,000 isn't going to do that. It's not going to make you feel better.
So then when your dad passed away at Christmas, obviously there was, you know, everybody was very upset because so many people had grown up with him. He was such a fixture for such a long time in Ireland.
He was,
like in the showbiz.
Like he was in it for 60 years.
Yeah.
You know?
So what was that like for you, I guess, having to share your grief with everybody else? Did that help?
No different to normal.
Or?
No different to normal, because they had him all their lives anyway, and he was on display for his... He was 87 when he passed away. So I guess from the age of... Because he was singing from the age of 14, 15, and around Cabra and Cabra West, and even D2 in around North Inner City, Dublin. You know, he was known as a singer, you know. You'd know somebody, oh, that guy is a great footballer in your area, or he's a great singer, or they are great at whatever they do. So
and Dublin is small.
Yeah,
so.
And Dublin really was small then, you know. So, you know, and he used to jump on his bike and cycle from dance hall to dance hall, club to club, tennis club to tennis club, do 3 songs, run. So he was known around, and I don't think he spent much of a period of his life as just being Richard Rock from Cabra, a normal person. I think from early on, especially with my grandmother. My grandmother would have idolised him and put him on a pedestal. So he was always on a pedestal from early days, you know, and on that pedestal he will stay till the day he went, you know. So it's not easy for kids of any age, like, or any, in America I see Jaden Smith, and I just find it totally bizarre like that.
Well, you wonder really what, I think it was Victoria Beckham's daughter I saw coming out of a hotel. Actually, that's what made me think of it in Paris the other day, and she actually looked uncomfortable, I thought, coming out. And you actually go, there's so many kids who go, oh, I'd love to be her, and she gets the
so
$9 grand dresses or whatever. At the same time, you're sort of,
it doesn't it doesn't make it easy for that kid, you know. The emotion is the same. Doesn't matter if you have a 50 grand dress on or a €2 from Penny's dress on. If you're uncomfortable, like, I couldn't get my head around it at all. And I've been in that company with Beckham and a few of them, and the attention that they get is just extraordinary. Like, it's mental, to the point that, you know, you actually feel like, right, let's just kill all these people and get them out of the way, because they're, you know, they're wrecking our lives. But then on the flip side, you know, you court that, you need that, and if it's for your business, that's what you're getting.
yeah.
But I don't necessarily believe that the daughter, or, you know, his young kid, I don't think they should be subjected to that, because it's not right. And it for the young mind and the young brain, or the old brain like mine, it's not healthy at all. At all. You know, kids need to be let roam free, make their mistakes, bounce off walls, fall over, be drunk, be silly, and they should be allowed, or just do whatever they want to do. Because if they can't find out their road for themselves, they'll never find their road.
Yeah.
They'll never find a way, you know.
Your mum, therefore, must have been a huge influence in your life. And your mum, Judy, you lost her in 2022.
That's right, April 25th, 2022. Yeah, she ran everything, really. She was a great woman, and it kind of hurt differently because she got sick. She got COVID. You know, that one, the cold that kills nobody. She got COVID through it being passed on by somebody close, and it, with her autoimmune disease, it just destroyed her over 6-7 weeks. And when she went into the hospital, there was no coming out. And it wasn't because she went into the hospital that there was no coming out. She was never coming out. She was either dying at home in her bed in pain, or going into ICU. And we hoped for the very best for the first few weeks, but then, you know, you have to be realistic, and you have to look at it the way it is, and realise, not bringing my mother home, you know. I remember saying it to her in the bed, and she could still hear us and all that, and I'd rub her hands, put some oil, cream in her hands, and she just nodded her head no. I said it to her, I'm going to bring you home, ma'am, and she just nodded the head no, you know. And I don't think she was in any pain at that time, but to look at that and see her communicate, no, I'm not coming home again, that was pretty brutal. And I probably will never forget that moment when I looked at her face and she shook her head, no, not coming home.
We're actually, today, the day we're recording this, is the day exactly 5 years that they closed the schools, that they said everything was shutting down. And it's 5 years ago. And a lot, like, people have sort of moved on.
They've forgotten about it.
How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel angry?
I think people are delusional. But they're lazy also. You know, they're just lazy in their actions. Like, even at the time, I had friends who were like, "Oh, it's nothing more than a cold. It's nothing more than this. It's nothing more than that." And it is nothing more than a cold if you are really fit and virulent young adult and you're good to go. It was only a really bad cold for those people. But for people with autoimmunes or, who are just not the healthiest or getting older or whatever, it was lethal, It's that simple. And I don't buy this, it's only a cold. It wasn't only a cold. Tell that to my mother, I put her in the ground. So it's, it's, I think people in general can be just lazy within themselves, whether it's, your kid on the phone or the iPad for 6 or 7 hours and just letting them do it and then saying, "Oh, Tommy doesn't go on that at all. I don't let my kids on that at all." I think people are just lazy, and not for any badness sake, but just, it's a lot easier sometimes to let your kid have the phone or have the iPad or whatever it is, or there's the ice cream. Jesus, stop screaming at me, But I think that laziness then just stems out from lack of communication, And it's kind of hard to get to the point of really communicating with your child. I know I have a daughter. She's 14. I'm trying to understand, understand that type of communication. But I love it. You got to try. By the way, I'm lazy as well. I will not do certain things, and probably procrastinate a bit. But you need to be on the ball 24/7 if you're a parent. It's mad.
When your dad had retired just before your mum had passed away, so they must have then spent a lot more time together. How did it affect him?
They went back to Spain, and they'd been in Spain for the first 2 years of COVID, and they were delighted because they were in their apartment, they were together, they walked every day down to the beach, into their garden, back into their apartment, and I think they were genuinely happy because they had nobody ringing them up to go, "Oh, the puncture in your car, I've got to get this fixed or I've got to get that fixed." Nobody had any of that going on. And any of the phone calls, "How are you today?" And my dad was a great one for ringing up, calling up the phone and go, "How's the weather today? Show me the weather." And he'd want to see the rain. Yeah. And you could see him, Judy, you see it's raining there. It's great, isn't it? Yeah. And he just got such a buzz out of, "I'm in the sunshine. Where are you today?" You'd be on Talbot Street or something in the pouring rain in November, going sideways. Yeah. They had I think they had a really great, they always had a great time, to be honest. But I think the last 2 or 3 years really brought them, if you can get any closer, after 57, 58 years of marriage, I think it really brought them closer together. Yeah. And my mother looked after Dad, she really did look after him. And he looked after her, but she was the boss, Yeah. He just went out to work. She ran everything.
She was at home.
Yeah, she ran the show for everything else. But he had the easy job.
Yeah, him being at home, them being in Spain, sort of starting their new life in one way together.
Essentially, yeah. It was. We were happy to see it. You could see that they were happy every day. They were there when they say like the odd couple. They probably were like the odd couple because Mum was a certain way, Dad was a certain way, but together they're 50%. They came together, and it was a really good 100%.
So that must have really affected your dad then.
Oh,
when she died so suddenly.
Destroyed him.
Yeah,
it killed him. It killed him. He, from that moment on, I don't think he got the gravity of it when we were going in and out of the hospital. And he'd go in and he'd sit with her and he'd be rubbing her hand, singing songs to her into her ear. Songs that my brother said to me, "I've never heard that song before." I said, "Me neither, but it must have been one he wanted to record and she hated it." Yeah. Because she'd, "No, don't like that song, don't record that." But yeah.
Did she choose which songs he sang?
No, nobody chose.
Right.
Nobody chose. He did what he wanted, and especially later on in his career, he would just do what made him happy, which I think is a great position to be in. I'm going to do that song. Nobody's going to buy it, Dad. I don't care. I'm recording it. And it was more the process of going into the studio with amazing musicians, more so than the end product. I think it was the days spent in the studio where you're with just incredible artists be they guitar players, trumpet players, sax players, musicians in general, when you're in amongst them and they suddenly hit the right note and everything comes together, it's like euphoria. You know, you're like, oh, there it is. There's the sweet spot. We're in it now. So that's what kind of got him up in the morning, that and golf.
Yeah.
You know, to do that type of thing.
Going.
You know, but yeah, they had an amazing last few years, which was the sad part, you know, to be honest, because they'd really seemed to have gone to another level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But sometimes you look back and think, well, that maybe that was to be, so they'd have that before what was to come.
Yeah, you could look at it that way. But they had that because they created that.
Yeah.
You know, and once she left, his heart left. And my dad was very emotion driven, you know, be it anger or love or happiness. He was very emotion driven. So when Mum passed, there was no comeback, no chance. You know, and for the first year he seemed okay. He had a small bit of dementia that was coming, and it was coming, and it was coming, and then once Mum passed, it just came with all its ferocity and just took him away. You know, he fought hard though. He really did. But it's you can't. It's just the whole thing with it is it's so unquantifiable. You can't actually go, well, it's this or that, which is bizarre because us as human beings, it's the one thing we all share, birth and death. We mightn't share a lot in the middle, bar some similar emotions and all that. But birth, we all go through it screaming, and death, we all go through it, hopefully not screaming. And it's so bizarre that we don't have a better handle on caring for each other after it.
After somebody passes away.
Because we all do the very same thing for you, for me, for everybody. But
well, it's something that's going to happen to everybody.
Yeah, it is.
Which is why I think there's a need for people to talk about it. It's still, I think in the last few years, certainly there's been more articles, more open conversation on whether it's on the radio or on TV about grief, but I still think that it's still, people don't want to talk about it. They don't know what to say.
I think the human touch should be all important, you know, when you're walking down the road and you know that person has been hurt. Let them know, you know, and let them know you care. Even if you don't really know them. I know loads of people who don't really know them. I walk by them in the street every day and I go, hello, hello, hello. And I really enjoy it, and that's why I love Dublin, because you can walk from one end to the other and still say hello to 20 people that you might know 20 years, but you're only from passing them in the street and saying how are you, you know. And
did you find, because obviously your dad was Dickie Rock, that after he died, you felt a bit of it was more of a comfort that people would come up to you, or did you find that intrusive?
I kind of tried to stay out of the way for a bit, but you can't stay out of the way because you got to get back to life. You got to get back to being dad. You got to get back to, you know, looking after what you got to look after. So people do come up to you and they do say all that. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes you just want to put your head through a wall because it becomes overwhelming, you know. And then sometimes you're kind of going, you know, I just want to be Jason Rock or just Richard Rock. I just want to go over here and, you know, all that over there is nothing really to do with me. All that fame and fortune and singing and dancing and all that is really nothing to do with me. So I'll go over here. Then you realise when you're over here, well, it's kind of is something to do with me, you know, so I got to go back into it and have a look at it. And, you know, it's, it's such a carnival of everything, because people's thoughts and prayers and all that, they are genuine. They are really, really genuine. And I found what brought us a lot of solace and a lot of comfort was when we went back to Cabra West, and all the people outside from really all over the country. And that's what kind of, for people to get up off their asses, people came from Macroom, from Tralee, from Killarney, from all over the country. And they turned up with their records, and that kind of gave us a moment for a pause, because I'd never seen that, you know. Here we are, we loved your dad, and, you know, learning their names, getting to know them. You know, he had loads of fans up in Northern Ireland for like 60 years. Some of them be writing every birthday, every kid's birthday. We got a card in the door for John, Richard's hair, whatever.
Wow.
And all these people always remembered him, you know, guys down in Tralee, Red, turned up with all their records, you know, records I'd never even seen in my life, you know, the vinyls, to get them signed by us, which I don't get really. But had been signed by my dad 30 years, 40 years, 50 years previously, you know, so that really brought a lot of, oh wow, they did love him. You know, I was really happy with that. And we went back to Cabra for him, because that's where he was from. He's of that place, you know. I like to think that we've roots there and all that, but it's more kind of, you know, emotional roots now, you know, driving them through Cabra in the hearse, where people were coming out to the doors. You know, they came out to the doors because they couldn't make it up to the church because they were too elderly and it was freezing. Yeah. You know, I wouldn't have gone myself. Only had to.
It's always freezing on a funeral day. But, you know, it's yourself and your brother, Richard, you're coming together to do a show in April in honour of your dad.
That's
in
right.
the National Concert Hall. How... I presume you're in rehearsals already.
Yeah, you were kind of sent off with the songs, learn those 3 or 4 songs, but you kind of know them. But it's in the beginning of putting the show together. Well, Eugene McCarthy, who was my dad's MD for, you know, through the good years with him, he's putting the show together, and he called us up, and there was a few other companies or groups or whatever all wanted to do some type of tour or remembrance show, but realistically the only person you could do it with is Eugene and Pat Egan, because Eugene knew him inside out. He knew if his face was set a certain way, right, not going into that room at the moment, leave him in there by himself. Why? Just doesn't matter, just leave him. He knew him inside out, you know. So to do it with Eugene, we were happy as a family. I would be happy because I'd be judging it the way my dad would judge it, and Richard would judge it the same way as how good are this band. This band are unbelievable. So yeah, we'd love to do it. And the love and the amount of work that Eugene has put into it, and is putting into it with his partner Karen Black and Aileen, they loved him. So this show for them is really important. It's probably more important for them, and I want it to be really successful for them, because, you know, they deserve, you know, that pat on the back and the tip of the hat, you know.
Well, what's it like for you though, singing your dad's songs? How does that make you feel? Does it bring you closer to him? Does it, are you finding out things about him you didn't know?
What I knew about all the songs was, because anybody that listened to the songs through the years is fans. Even if you hear it now, every song is about love. Every song is 99% about loss. So to really sing those songs, I found in the beginning when I was trying to, well, I knew them all, the words and all that, and you can sing them mechanically and get the words out there, but to really sing them, you have to really invest yourself emotionally in, you know, every step of the way, or come back to stay, you know, or when the evening shadows fall, there's always me. You know, they're all about love and, you know, please love me, or, you know, please don't leave me. So if you're doing that for 50, 60 years, I think it has to affect you mentally. Yeah. You know, especially if you invest in the emotion of the song. So for me, learning the songs, the first few weeks was very emotional. I get halfway through the song and I have to go, right, Jesus Christ, I can't even listen to that at the moment. So I'd have to turn it off and just leave the house and find some other way to distract me. I don't know how it is for Richard, but for me, it was very emotional trying to learn the songs, because the songs I'm learning, I'd heard at different events through the years, and I remember him dedicating certain songs to certain people, and they really meant something, you know. So for me to try and replicate it, all I can do is know the words,
Yeah.
forget them, and try and get the emotion into it without the emotion getting away from you. Because if it gets away from you, sure, you can't sing then, you can't breathe properly, and it just sets off a reaction. So it's been difficult enough. The rock and roll songs, fine, but the big ballads, they're really sad, really.
Yeah.
You know, if you listen to them, Jesus Christ.
Putting people off your show.
No, they're amazing.
Just finally, obviously, we're talking about your dad and your mum, but you were saying coming in, you also lost your dog, Ruby.
my beautiful dog. I rescued a pit bull pup, you know. Actually, it was 10.5 years ago. And from the day I got her, she was with me, and I mean beside me, as my arm is, every day, every night. She slept in the bed beside me, like there was no you're sleeping in your bed. It was like, you know, and I found that shockingly upsetting. I was actually in hospital myself, and I got a call from the vet to say, look, your dog has 4 to 5 days to live. And I swear to God, you know, I've lost my brother. It was brutal, really brutal. I lost my mum. That was really, really brutal, in the fact that you had to sit with her for 6 or 7 weeks, and Jesus, this is awful. I know some people will go, how can you equate the loss of a dog or to your family member or to a friend or anything?
But you see your dog every day, all the time.
I equate, my dog was my best friend. You know, she came to work with me. My boss, he just shake his head and kind of go, you can't really bring the dog to a meeting or to the hotel or to here or to there or everywhere. But well, then the meeting wasn't happening, because I'm not going without her, and she comes with me, and we go together. Now, fair play to him, because I wouldn't have put up with that. And I loved her dearly. She was just always right beside me. Turned to my right, there she is, looking at me for her food, looking at me for the walk, looking at me for whatever. But she was great comfort after Mum died, you know. It was bizarre. They most certainly do get the emotion that's going on with you. And she stuck really, really close to me over those 2.5 years till she got sick. And then I felt it was my time to take care of her. And I nursed her for 2 weeks. She died in the bed beside me on a 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning, 5 to 3 on a Saturday morning. And I left her in the bed for a while, wrapped her, brought her outside and put her in her bed. And, you know, people think I'm mental, but I had a funeral for her. You know, I had her cremated, and she's at home on the shelf, and I still talk to her, which, you know, I don't know, lots of people will say that's totally mad.
I don't think so.
You know, but
I mean, your pet
love is love.
Yeah.
You know, you know, and she was my companion and my best friend. Probably more so than my dad would be my best friend or companion, because he wasn't. He was my dad. I was never friends with him. My youngest sibling, Peter, was probably great friends with him, because they played golf, they did all that. And when Peter was around as a young man, my dad was around, because the 7 nights a week had stopped. So he had to find something else to do, and that, well, make sure I get this one right. You know, so they were great pals, whereas I was not great pals with him. I loved him dearly. He's my dad. He was a great man. But I had a different slant on it. I had a different upbringing, you know, which, thank God, my dad being the way he was, he got better and better and better. So by the time he got to the youngest, he was like, right, I think I have this down. You know, I can do it now. But that's just humans being humans and having to learn on the run. on the move, and he had a lot to learn, with 6 kids real quick.
And there's no handbook.
No,
being a
there's
parent.
none at all. There's none at all. And
You do your
I'm the same
best.
with my daughter, as I'm sure any parent is. You're kind of going, you think to yourself, Jesus, did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? You know what? If you're in the race and you're trying, that's all that matters. It's really, I think, all your kid wants to see anyway. They want to see you try for them. And then they feel good. It doesn't matter if you get it right or wrong. Once you're in the race, on the horse, that's all that matters, really.
Jason, thank you so much
My pleasure,
for
my
talking
pleasure.
this morning. And of course, you are in the National Concert Hall on April the 19th with your
April
brother
19th, yes.
and Johnny Logan.
And the great
Johnny
Johnny Logan, and a few other people, Murty Quinn and the Runaways Band and Karen Black, and there's another few special guests on the night. Ronan Collins will be doing Compare. Ronan was one of my dad's really good friends, and professionally as well as personally, and those guys were just top end to my dad in the last few months, 2 years of his life. Sil Fox, all those people, they were really brilliant, and they've been really good to us after it as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing them on the night, because I think this is more about them and his fans.
Yeah.
And selling out very quickly, which we're really delighted with, because you're always kind of like, I wonder, will it sell out? But it's flying along, so we're really happy about that. And it's for us to kind of go, right, thank you, this is it, and we'll see you again in another life, kind of like the story is over after that for us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Grief Pod with Venetia Quick. You can listen on SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcasts. We also have an online community on Facebook, The Grief Pod, or on Instagram @GriefPod Series.